Good morning. Good morning. So we're doing responsibility two, exactly the topic that you are longing to talk about this morning. But I think it's such an important topic, and it felt like we began it in a in a in a wonderful way last time, but that it was really sort of planting the seeds, but now it felt like we need another session to really be able to relax enough to explore the issue not only of personal responsibility, but of collective responsibility, which seems like the most important topic for us to explore together. Last time I had begun the session talking about Jean Genlin joking with me that responsibility is a bad word. And we talked about the feeling of burden and the feeling of sort of not having yourself. You're you're owned by the responsibility, and the feeling of obligation and the feeling of being afraid of being blamed. And those are experiences that are very heavy and in a way kind of life-killing, that feeling that you're just living to perform your responsibilities. So we started with that face of responsibility. And Christine had said to me last time in the breakout rooms, I don't know what you people are talking about. The feeling responsibility is a bad word. Where would we be without responsibility? And those responsibility is what makes the world go around. Heavy, and we don't always get to, in a way, kind of life-killing. Examine it philosophically. Just I mean, many of us are born into incredible responsibilities. So we started with that. It's a choiceless choice. Responsibility. We have to. And Christine had said to me last time I thought in the breakout room, said usually I don't know what you people are talking about. That responsibility is a bad word. Where would we be without responsibility? And responsibility is what makes the world go around. And we don't always get responsibility as a good word. Examine it philosophically. I mean, many of us are born into incredible responsibilities, redeeming that we don't have. It's a choiceless choice. So that's what we're going to do. We have to perform in certain ways. Have so I thought about what Christine said. Usually, Christine and I, if we have a thing like that, it will take me days to think through what she's saying. And I said, yes. Well, we did talk a little bit about to come and join you. Responsibility is a good word, for whom responsibility has been a bad word. Really, we're going to redeeming the word responsibility. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have now there's focusing as our magic wand, our entrance into and changing paradigms. Want to and for those of you who for whom responsibility is a good word, we're going to see what's in to come and join you. And those of you for whom responsibility has a bad what you do has been a bad word, use that we're going to with all capital letters. We're going to look at the way people usually use at the beautiful side of responsibility. So now there's a little trick that psychoanalysts have strategy that I picked up on and talk about. And the trick is that when you want to redefine something, can we do that? You want to give it a facelift. You want to see what's in it and underneath it without the old prejudices, without its reputation. It is what you do is you use that word with all capital letters. What we want, whereas the way people usually use it would be in small letters. I was
So
realizing
why don't we
last night
co-opt that
that
strategy
in
and
this
talk about responsibility with a capital R?
transformational power that focusing
Can we do that?
has, it doesn't only have it
So
for the word
responsibility
and
with a
and I
capital
use that
R
psychoanalytic
is
trick also in
a
talking about
feeling,
relating.
it is
That Jean's
is an
kind of
experience
relating,
that we're
having
going to
capital
flesh
letters,
out
as
of
opposed to
what we
relating the way
want
we usually
the word
use the word.
responsibility to mean.
But
I was realizing
where was I going
last
with that?
night that
Back one
in
minute,
this
I was realizing
kind of
that focusing has this
transformational
ability
power that
always
focusing has.
of taking
It
something
doesn't only
that's
have it for the
ordinary,
word
something that we
responsibility,
don't
and
notice,
I
something
use
that
that
we assume,
psychoanalytic
something
trick
that we
also in
live
talking
within
about
the
relating.
cage of
That
often.
Jean's kind of relating, having capital
And
letters,
simply
as opposed to
asking,
relating the way we
what do
usually
we
use
want
the
that
word.
to mean? Brings this
But
incredible transformation.
where
And it can
was I
happen
going
about
with
anything.
that? Oh, back
So
one
our
minute.
worst enemies,
I was
like
realizing
the
that
word
focusing has this
should,
ability
or the
always
word
of taking
lazy,
something that's ordinary,
those words
something
can
that
be
we don't notice,
transformed
something
with
that we
focusing when
assume,
we
something
feel
that we
into
live
them.
within
Excuse
the
me, I have to
cage of
answer the door.
often.
This is very unprofessional.
And simply
I hate
asking,
this
what do we want
kind of
that to mean?
process
Brings
of
this
answering the door on the
incredible
phone.
transformation.
So,
and it can
this-
happen about
this is
anything.
not just for this word.
So
But
our worst
but for many
enemies, like
experiences,
the
if we
word
feel into
should, or
what
the word
that could mean,
lazy,
what that could be meant to
those
be,
words can be transformed
we can
with
find
focusing
all
when we
kinds of treasures.
feel into them. Excuse me, I have to
And
answer
that's
the
what we
door.
want to do
This is very
for
unprofessional.
the word responsibility.
I hate
So,
this
we did
kind
talk
of
last time about the simple
process of answering the door
change
on the
of
phone.
thinking about it as
So
the ability
this
to
this is
respond.
not just for this
And
word,
recognizing
but for many experiences, if we feel into
when responsibility
what that
with
could
small
mean,
or
what that could
feels
be meant to be,
overwhelming, especially in
we can
childhood.
find all kinds of
Often
treasures
we have,
in it.
I had the
And that's
emotional
what we want to do
responsibility
for
the
the
family
word
in some way.
responsibility.
That
So
was an impossible
we did
task.
talk last time
And
about the simple
then
change of thinking about it
you
as
don't
the
feel
ability to
you don't
respond,
feel
and
you don't
recognizing
feel like a real person.
that
You feel like
when
that you
responsibility
are
with
for the sake
small
of
r
accomplishing what needs to be
feels
accomplished.
overwhelming, especially in
So
childhood.
when we
Often we
change
have,
it to the ability
I
to
had the
respond
emotional
with all this life
responsibility
that comes
for the
into it.
family in some
And
way.
you made
That was
some
an
wonderful
impossible
remarks last
task.
time. I forget who it was. I think it was Susan
Then
that talked about
you don't
how
feel free.
responsibility gives
You don't
her
feel,
life meaning and
you
order,
don't feel like
taking care of
a
her
real
sister.
person. You feel like
And we were thinking
that you
about
are
all of the ways that
for the sake
we
of
can
accomplishing
we can
what needs to be
claim the
accomplished.
ability to respond. So to get us in
So,
the mood of that,
when we change it to
we're going
the
to read our
ability to
poem
respond, there's all this
at
life
the
that
beginning
comes
of the
into it.
session, and then I have
you
a
made
special
some
poem
wonderful
for you
remarks
at the
last time.
end
I
of
forget
the
who it
session.
was. I think it
will
was
be a
Susan
surprise poem.
that talked about
Okay, Dorothy.
how
I'm going to read
responsibility
this
gives
as an
her
attunement.
life meaning
And those of
and
you who have your
order,
cameras off,
taking care
I
of her sister.
understand you don't want
And
us to see you eating
we were
and stuff
thinking
like that,
about
but
all of
we
the
would love to
ways that
join you for breakfast.
we can
if you are
have, we
willing to
can
put your cameras off.
claim the ability
Go ahead,
to
Dorothy.
respond. So to get us in the mood of that, we're going to read our poem at the beginning of the session, and then I have a special poem for you at the end of
And I
the
believe she
session.
wrote these in the
That will be a surprise poem.
mid-1990s, this poem.
Okay, Dorothy.
There's a
I'm gonna
place
read this
between
as an
two stands
attunement.
of trees
And those of you
where
who
the
have your
grass
cameras
grows
off,
uphill,
I understand
and the old
you don't want
Revolutionary Road
us to
breaks
see you
off
eating
into
and stuff like
shadows
that.
but
near a
we
meeting
would love
house
to
abandoned
join you
by
for
the
breakfast
persecuted,
if you are
who
willing to put your
disappeared
cameras
into
on.
those shadows.
Go ahead, Dorothy.
I've walked there, picking mushrooms at the edge of dread.
You are
But don't
muted.
be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem.
This is
This
a
is
lovely
not
poem
somewhere
by
else
Adrian
but here.
Rich called
Our
What
country
Kind of
moving
Times Are
closer to
These?
its own
And I
truth
believe
and
she wrote
dread.
these in the
Its own way
mid-1990s,
of
this
making
poem.
people disappear.
There's a
won't tell
place
you where the
between
place is.
two stands of trees
The dark
where the
mesh of
grass
woods
grows
meeting
uphill,
the unmarked strip
and
of
the
light.
old Revolutionary Road
Ghost-ridden
breaks off into
crossroads.
shadows
Leaf
near a
mold
meeting house
paradise.
abandoned by the
I know
persecuted,
already who
who
wants to buy it,
disappeared into those
sell it,
shadows.
make it disappear.
I've walked there, picking
And I won't
mushrooms
tell
at
you
the
where
edge
it
of
is.
dread.
So why do I
But
tell
don't
you
be
anything?
fooled. This
Because you
isn't a
still
Russian
listen.
poem. This is
Because in
not
times
somewhere
like
else but
these,
here.
To have you
Our
listen at
country
all,
moving closer to its
it's
own
necessary
truth
to
and
talk
dread.
about trees.
Its own way of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is.
In
The
times
dark
like
mesh of the
these,
woods meeting the unmarked strip of light.
if you are to
Ghost-ridden
listen at all,
crossroads.
we have to
Leaf
talk
mold
about
paradise. I know already who wants to
trees. So
buy
maybe
it,
we're going to talk
sell
about
it,
trees this
make
morning.
it disappear.
Let's just have a couple of
And I
comments
won't tell
about the
you where
poem
it is.
and about the
So why
subject
do
of
I tell you anything?
collective responsibility.
Because you still listen. Because in times like these,
Just
to
anything
have
that
you
came to
listen
you,
at
it doesn't
all,
have to be
it's necessary to talk about
particular.
trees.
Thank you, Dorothy. Yes.
Uh,
In times like
I think
these,
I read somewhere that trees communicate deep
if
down
you
in
are
the
to
roots
listen at
in
all,
that
we
mysterious
have to talk
network.
about trees.
And in terms of the title of the poem, in
So
times
maybe
like
we're going to
this,
talk about trees this morning.
referring to our
Let's just
times
have a
now,
couple of comments about the
that
poem
connections
and about the subject of
deep
collective
underground and
responsibility.
also above ground, in the bright daylight
Just
and in the
anything that
darkest
came to
night.
you, it doesn't have to be
We need those connections.
particular.
That's what
Yeah.
I take from that poem. And trees are very comforting for me. I enjoy it.
Yes.
My life would not be the same without the trees on this earth. I read somewhere that trees communicate deep down in the roots space in that mysterious network. And in terms
Thank
of
you.
the
That could
title
be
of
a
the
poem.
poem, to the sky in times like this, referring
Yes,
to our
and trees
times now,
remind us that we're
that
all connected
connections
under the earth, that all
deep
these
underground
trees
and
look
also
like
above
only
ground,
individual
in the
trees.
bright
Of course, they are
daylight
individual trees, but they're
and in the
also
darkest night.
all interconnected.
We need those
Any
connections.
other comments?
That's what I take from
about the
that poem.
poem?
And
I
trees
think
are
trees were our first
very comforting for
summer
me. I
homes.
enjoy it.
Caves
And
were our
my life
first
would not be
winter
the
homes.
same without the
Trees were our
trees on
first
this
summer
earth.
homes.
Yes, yes,
They are like
yes.
silent sentries
Our
guarding
first
the
summer
space
homes.
around us.
I
Yes.
also have a great
Thank
book.
you. That
It's
could be a
called,
They
I don't know
reach
if
to the
you can
sky and
see,
deep
probably can't
into the
see it,
earth.
sorry. It's called
Yes,
Forest
and
Bathing
trees
Retreat
remind us
Find
that we're
Wholeness in the
all
Company of
connected under
Trees
the
by
earth.
Hannah
that
Fries. And it's a
all these
wonderful
trees
little
look
book.
like only
And,
individual
It
trees. Of
just
course,
has
they
different
are
sayings
individual
like,
trees, but they're
have you ever
also
said that the air smells
all
like fall or
interconnected.
spring? What are you
Any other
smelling? Dry
comments
leaves,
about
honeysuckle,
the
falling
poem?
snow.
I think
There's
trees
all
were
kinds of
our
beautiful little
first summer
poems here.
homes.
Listen,
Caves were our
get your
first
other
winter
senses
homes, but
working
trees
now.
were our first summer homes.
I can't pronounce it. It's Japanese.
Our first summer
Komorebi.
homes.
Komorebi.
I
Sunlight
also
filtering
have
through the
a
leaves
great
of
book.
trees.
It's
It's just so
called, I
many
don't know if
wonderful
anybody can
things in this
see,
book.
probably can't see it, sorry.
Thank you.
It's called
Yeah.
Forest
put the name of it
Bathing
in the chat.
Retreat. Okay. Find Wholeness in the Company of Trees by Hannah Fries. And it's a wonderful little book.
I
And
think we have one more
it just
comment.
has different sayings like, have
Trees
you
are
ever
super
said that
important
the air
to
smells
me
like
as
fall or
well.
spring? What
The
are you
other thing that
smelling?
struck
Dry
me was the
leaves,
Revolutionary
honeysuckle,
Road.
falling snow.
Mm.
There's all
The
kinds of
darkness,
beautiful little
because I've been listening to the Ken
poems here.
Burns
Listen,
Yeah, yeah.
get your other
special. Oh my
senses
God,
working now.
so much violence.
Um,
Like
I
it
can't
goes on
pronounce it.
and
It's
on with the
Japanese.
battles and
Komorebi,
severing people.
Komorebi.
I'm like, okay,
Sunlight
this is how
filtering through
our
the
country
leaves of
began.
trees. There's just so many
Good,
wonderful
yes.
things in
Yeah,
this
which is in a
book.
weird way kind of
So,
comforting.
thank
Okay, we're
you.
not so far
Yeah.
off.
You could put the
Where
name
we
of it
are
in the
now.
chat.
okay.
It's like, okay, so everything changes, everything stays the same.
Well,
So that's
I think
kind
we
of
have
how
one
I
more
felt
comment.
about it.
Right. We haven't
Trees
gone
are super
downhill.
important.
to
Yeah,
me
I
as
was
well.
like, I love the other thing that struck me
Adrian
was the
Rich is just
Revolutionary
one of my
Road.
favorites, and I'm like, did she walk on one
It's
of
the
those
darkness
paths
because
where
I've been
they had
listening to
those
the Ken
battles?
Burns.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
Special.
like,
Oh my God,
there's so many of them.
so much violence.
Where we're living,
Like
where I'm
God,
living
he
right
goes on
now.
and on with the
And
battles
all
and
of this
severing
is the
people.
territory
I'm
of
like, okay, this is
collective
how our
responsibility,
country
right? That
began.
we are,
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, which
we
is
are
in a weird way
trees
kind of
that are
comforting.
all
Okay, we're not so far
interconnected.
off from where
Wow.
we are
And
now.
we
Like,
stand
okay,
in
so
places
everything
where there's
changes,
been
everything
a
stays
lot
the
of
same.
violence.
Wow.
So
What is our
that's kind of
relationship
how I felt
to
about it.
that?
Right. We
What
haven't
do you
gone
think
downhill.
Yeah, I was
of
like,
Adrian
I love
saying, in order
Adrian Rich.
for
She's
you to
one of my favorites, and I'm
listen,
like, did she walk on one
you're
of those
still listening.
paths
We
where
have
they
to
had those
start by
battles?
talking about trees.
You know, like
I took
there's so
took
many of
that as a
them
very personal
where we're living,
coaching
where I'm
by
living right
Adrian.
now.
And
as-
all of
as if
this
Adrian
is the
was saying to me,
territory of
Lynn, if you want us to
collective
talk about
responsibility,
collective
right? That
responsibility
we are
on a
we are
beautiful
trees that are all
November
interconnected.
morning,
At
Wow.
least where I am.
and
We stand
nobody's
in
gonna
places
listen
where there've been
unless we start
a
by
lot of
talking about
violence.
trees.
And
You
what
you
is
think
our
she was saying
relationship
that?
to that?
Before you say that, I just want to
What do
appreciate
you
you
think
for how
of
you wove all that together.
of Adrian saying,
That was
in
lovely,
order
masterful.
for you to listen,
Thank you.
you're still listening. We have to start by
They're all
talking
together
about
in the
trees.
felt sense.
I took that as
Lorraine
very
has her hand
personal
up.
Thank you,
coaching
Mary.
by Adrian.
Hi.
As
When
if
when
Adrian
I
was saying
look
to
at
me,
trees, it
Lynn,
reminds
if
me
you
to be
want us to
still
talk about collective
and to
responsibility
listen.
on
And
a
so
beautiful
If,
November
you know, I
morning,
translate that into your
at
question.
least where I
You
am,
can't really listen unless
nobody's
you're
going to
stilling,
listen
well, the noise in
unless
your
we
head and your
start by
opinions
talking
and
about
everything.
trees.
And trees just do
You,
that.
you think she was saying that?
They're good listeners.
Yeah.
Before you say that, I just
I
want
wish
to
they could talk. I'd
appreciate
love
you
to
for
hear
how
what
you
they have
wove
to
all
say,
that
but
together.
in fact, they
That
actually
was
can if you know how
lovely,
to listen.
masterful, Lynn.
I don't, but there
Thank
are
you.
people that know how to listen to the overriding and
They're all
angelic
together
kingdom
in the
of the
felt
different
sense.
species, but like from
Mhm.
Lorraine
Finhorn,
has her
in
hand
case
up.
anybody remembers that.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Mary.
thank you.
Well, Steph, we
when
are going to
when I
listen
look
to the
at trees, it
this
reminds me
morning.
to
The
be
trees are going to
still
tell us about
and to
collective
listen.
responsibility
And
because
so
they know all about that.
if you know, I translate that
They're
into your question.
standing for
You
each
can't
other,
be
and
you
they're
can't really listen
standing
unless
together,
you're stilling, well, the
um,
noise in your head and your opinions and
interconnected.
everything. And
And
trees
they
just do that.
they sort of go
They're
with
good
the
listeners.
wind and the rain.
I wish they could
and
talk. I'd love to hear what they
whatever
have
it
to say,
is.
but
They're
in fact,
standing
they
there,
actually can if you know how
at
to
least
listen.
in
I
my
don't,
mind.
but
I
there
know
are
they
people
do
that
get
know
blown
how to
down,
listen to the
and our
overriding and
responsibility
angelic
gets blown
kingdom
down.
of the different species. But like from Finhorn,
Before we
in
go
case anybody remembers
further,
that.
I want us
Anyway,
just to
thank you.
focus for a minute. Well, Steph, we are going to listen
the
to the trees
feeling
this morning. The trees are going to tell
of-
us about collective
I'm gonna start
responsibility
with the
because they
difficult
know all
one.
about that.
The feeling of being
They're
irresponsible.
standing for each other, and they're
When you
standing
feel
together,
irresponsible.
interconnected.
And you say to yourself, "Oh
and
my
they
God, how irresponsible
they sort of
of
go
me.
with the wind and the
I didn't do
rain
this,"
and
or
whatever it is.
that
They're
feeling
standing
of
there.
living
At least in my
with
mind.
this
I know
cloud
they do get blown down,
of
and our responsibility gets
irresponsible.
blown down.
just jot down a few words about that.
Before we go
feeling.
further, I want us just to focus for a minute on the feeling of. I'm going to start with the difficult one. The feeling
It's
of
such a
being irresponsible.
basic primal feeling.
When you feel irresponsible, when you say to yourself, "Oh my God, how irresponsible of me!
Raise your
Didn't
hands
do
when
this,"
you,
or
when you've written down a few words.
that feeling of living with this cloud.
It might be an instance that you
of
think of.
irresponsible, and just jot down a few words about that feeling. It's such a basic primal feeling. Raise your hands when you've written down a few
I put
words.
childlike, and then as an adult, overwhelmed and
There might
in
be an
danger of not being
instance that you think
respected.
of. In danger of not being respected. Yeah. Well, let's turn the kaleidoscope a minute, and then all of us focus on the feeling of being responsible. And then we'll hear from each other about it. Sort of like that exercise in when you're learning focusing about something you love and something you hate. Just feel what it's like in your body when you feel like, oh,
I put
I'm responsible.
childlike, and then
I-
as an adult,
There's a
overwhelmed
kind of
and
feeling
in danger of not being
of noticing.
respected.
In
That
danger
was very
of
responsible.
not being respected. Yeah, I really responded to that. Well, let's turn the kaleidoscope a minute, and then all of us focus on the feeling of being responsible to do this or that. And then we'll and I'm responsible. Hear from each other about it. Sort of like that exercise in when you're learning focusing about something you love and something you hate. Just feel what it's like in your body when you feel like, oh, I'm responsible. The feeling responsibility is a kind of feeling of noticing. That was very responsible. It can feel like I really responded to that. Has pointed its finger at you. You say, "Oh, I could take responsibility the feeling of for this. It's my job, just that to do this or that. Taking, and I'm responsible of your own will, not it being imposed on you. The feeling of taking responsibility. The feeling
Okay,
of responsibility
have,
is something that you take. People that would want to share about feeling irresponsible or feeling responsible. It can feel like
For me, it's
somehow the universe
it's a
has
sense of I'm doing my
pointed
part.
its finger at you. You say, "Oh, I could take responsibility." A sense of I'm doing my part. Yeah, just that feeling of the taking. It sounds like a very reassured feeling. Oh, I'm doing my part of your own will, not it being imposed on you.
Yes, and the fact that I was needed to do that. So it's that connection with others that need me to do my part.
Okay, do we have
The
some people that would want to
feeling of
share
being needed
about feeling
and the feeling
irresponsible
of
or
doing
feeling
your part,
responsible?
it's sort of like an act of belonging.
For
the
me,
feeling of
it's
belonging.
it's a sense of I'm doing my part.
And
Mm.
I can't, Lorraine.
A sense of
Is it
I'm
Lorraine?
doing my
Yeah, you got
part.
it right. Maybe I should make it bigger, my name bigger. You know, I'm
It sounds
thinking of
like
it.
a very
It comes up in
reassured
when I think
feeling.
about my own
Oh, I'm
self.
doing my part.
I have difficulty like eating healthy and exercising regularly, and when I that's
Yes, and the fact
irresponsible
that
to
I
me.
was needed to
But
do that.
my
So
I do that because I feel like I want the
connection with
freedom. I
others
don't want to
that
have
need me to
rules,
do
and
my part.
you know. But
Yeah.
the truth is, when I am responsible and I'm eating
The
regularly
feeling
and
of
exercising
being
regularly,
needed
there really
and
is
the
so
feeling
much
of
more
doing your
freedom.
part.
It's really
It's sort
that's
of
where
like
the
an
freedom
act
is.
of belonging.
It's kind of
the
without
feeling
the
of
resistance, I
belonging.
think. You know, and if you take
And,
the resistance away,
um,
then what's left is
I
more
can't, Lorraine.
of an openness and
Is it Lorraine?
more space. Yeah, you got it right. Maybe I should make it bigger.
Oh,
My name
yeah,
bigger.
yeah. The feeling
You know, I'm
of
thinking
when
of
you
it.
just come
It comes
from,
up in when I think about my
taking
own
a
self.
brisk walk
About
or
I have
eating
difficulty
a
like eating
salad or
healthy and
something.
exercising
Oh,
regularly.
look at how
And when I
responsible
that's
I am.
irresponsible
Yes,
to me.
you're
But
also pointing out that
I do that because
responsibility
I feel like
is
I want
not
the
just for other
freedom. I don't want to
people,
have
that we
rules,
are
and you know.
responsible
But the
for
truth is, when I
ourselves, and the
am
feeling of
responsible and
being
I'm eating
responsible
regularly and
to
exercising
yourself
regularly, there
is
really
such a
is
feeling
so
of
much more freedom. It's
satisfaction.
really that's where the
Yeah,
freedom
and I
is.
just want to add, like,
It's kind of
when I'm
without the
doing what I
resistance,
need
I
to
think.
do,
You know, and
it
if you
feels
take the
so
resistance
good
away,
because
then
there's the
what's left is
absence
more
of
of an
that
openness and more
immature
space.
part that
So,
says I
anyway,
don't feel
thank you.
like it or
Oh,
I don't want
yeah,
to. There's
yeah.
the
The
absence
feeling
of
of
the
when
noise
you just
that's
come
resisting
from
me from doing what
taking
is the
a
right thing for me.
brisk walk
Like if I'm doing what's
or
right,
eating
it's
a
such a good
salad
feeling.
or
And when I'm
something.
resisting it,
Oh, look at
I
how
know that I'm
responsible
not
I
living in
am.
my true
And
self, and
you're
I'm
also
listening to
pointing
these,
out that responsibility is
just
not
a part
just
of
for
me
other
that's not to
people,
my
that
highest good.
we
Like I know
are
that even though
responsible
it
for
probably feels good because
ourselves. And the
I
feeling
don't
of
want to do
being
it, whatever it is.
responsible
But
to
there's another
yourself
part that knows
is
that
such a feeling
this
of satisfaction.
rebelliousness
Yeah,
does
and
not
I
feel
just
good
want
in
to
my
add, like,
system.
when I'm doing what I need to do, it feels
Sort of
so good
complex,
because
isn't
there's
it?
the absence of
If
that
we think of it as two
immature
different
part that says
paradigms,
I don't feel like it or I don't want to. There's the
blame and
absence of the
shame,
noise that's resisting
and
me from
then
doing what is the
the
right thing for me.
paradigm
Like if I'm doing what's
with the
right,
capital
it's such a good feeling.
R,
And when I'm resisting it,
a
I
paradigm
know that
of
I'm not living in my
of
true self, and
belonging
I'm listening to these
empowerment. There's sort of
just a
both
part of me
there
that's
in
not
that
to my highest good.
instance.
Like I know that even though
And
it partly
maybe
feels good
something
because
in the
I don't want to
rebellion,
do it, whatever it is.
this is
But
the
there's
way it
another
would
part
be
that
for me,
knows that this
is
rebelliousness
taking
does not feel good in my
responsibility.
system.
It's rebelling
Yeah.
against being told what
Sort
to
of
do,
complex, isn't it?
being bossed around. If we think of it as two different
But then
paradigms,
when the more mature part
paradigm
says, well, let's just
of
do
blame
that,
and shame,
then that's a
and
whole
then
different paradigm.
the paradigm
Not being bossed
with the
around.
capital R, a paradigm
Well, I
of
like the
belonging and
celebration of the
empowerment.
energy,
There's sort of
the
both
positive
there in
energy
that
that
instance.
doesn't want to do that.
And
Maybe it wants
maybe
to do something
something in
else.
the
Maybe
rebellion.
that's important. Maybe
This
that's
is the way it would
respectful.
be for me.
Include that.
Is
Maybe that's
taking
the wholeness.
responsibility.
And then, of course,
It's rebelling against being
maybe
told
that's
what
the
to do
wholeness that
and
somehow has
being
been
bossed
excluded.
around.
It's important, that energy.
But then when the more mature
Somehow it's
part
been
says,
told
well,
that
let's
doesn't
just do
belong, that
that
it's not right to
then
do this other thing.
that's a whole
I
different
don't know if
paradigm
that's
of being,
having been
not being bossed
the
around.
accused in my life. I don't know. Like my journey
Well,
has
I
been
like
to, be more accepting. The celebration of the energy. And then I'm also thinking of the positive energy that doesn't want to do that. Maybe it wants to do something else. And then somehow I feel that's like important. Maybe that's respectful. I'm in the real trees and the real forest. Maybe that's the wholeness, the life force. And then of course, with all, yeah, maybe that's the wholeness that somehow has been excluded.
What that makes me think
It's
of,
important,
Susan, is
that energy.
that
Somehow it's been
maybe
told that it doesn't
the
belong, that
energy
it's not right
that
to do this other thing,
rebels
but I don't
against
know
the
if that's
should
having
of
been
responsibility,
the accused in
the
my life.
burden of
I
somebody
don't
else
know,
telling
like
you
my journey has been
you
to,
should do
you know,
this,
be
even
more
if it's somebody
accepting.
else in your head, of course.
Um,
You should do
and then
this,
I'm also
and you're
thinking
to
of the
blame
times when I
if you don't
accuse
do
other
this.
people of not
That
being
maybe
responsible. Like, what
that
is that?
needs
And then
to
somehow I feel
be
like I'm in the
rebelled
trees.
against
I'm in the
before
real trees and the
you
real
can
forest,
taste
embracing the energy,
that
the life force of the
responsibility with
trees,
a capital
with all
R.
this.
That
That's beautiful.
I
N-
can
that-
do this.
what
that makes me
I
think
can
of,
participate
Susan,
in
is
my own health
that
by
maybe
eating
the
well or,
energy that
exercising.
rebels
It's
against
a-
the
such a
should
transformation
of
with a little
responsibility,
bit-
the
just a little
burden
bit of
of
a
somebody
turn.
else telling you you should do this,
Unhooking it,
even if
we
it's
called
somebody
it,
else in
from
your head,
shame
of
and blame.
course.
Liz, I
You
knew
should
you
do
had
this,
something
and
to
you're to
say.
blame
Really?
if you
I
don't do
felt it.
this. That maybe that needs to be rebelled against before
thing
you
about,
you can taste that responsibility with a
having the
capital R.
authority
That,
part,
oh,
say,
I
you have
can
to
do
whatever,
this.
right?
I can participate in my own
relational,
health by
maybe in
eating
some
well or
painful,
exercising.
way.
It's
But then
such a transformation.
it's
with
wonderful
a
if
little
you
bit,
can jump
just a
to,
little bit of
no,
a
it's
turn.
myself who wants to do
Unhooking
this.
it, we called
But
it
that
from
can
shame and
also be a
blame.
lonely
Liz, I knew
place.
you had something to say.
So
Really?
it feels like,
I felt it.
for me, I have to get to that self part without feeling that something has been taken away from me. The something is that relational part. Having the and the only authority in that situation where I'm supposed to be taking responsibility whatever, for things, like health or whatever, is relational. The only relational thing I can come up with is painful in a way. If you don't, but then, so what I'm trying to get it's to wonderful if you can jump to, no, it's myself who the authority wants to do this, shaming me, but that can also be a lonely place and a lone self. So it feels like, for me, who nobody really cares, I have to get to that self part. I somehow have to. Without feeling that something has been taken away from me. A different relational. The something is that relational part.
Yes. Yeah. And that
And the
is
only,
the
in that
transformation, right? To
situation
go
where I'm
from
supposed to be
a
taking
relational
responsibility for
paradigm of
things
shame and
like health or
blame
whatever,
and somebody pointing
the
their
only
finger at
relational
you
thing I can come up
to
with
a
is
relational paradigm
you better,
that the
if
trees
you don't,
have
you
of,
know. So what
we're
I'm trying to get
interconnected,
to is
and
something
we get to take
that is
responsibility.
neither the authority
We get to
shaming
stand
me
together that
or
way. And that's a whole
an
different
alone
relational
self,
paradigm
who
of
nobody really
support
cares
and
about,
doing it
but I
not because
somehow
you're
have to.
blamed, but because
Yes.
So
you
I want to
care
get to
and
a
you
different relational,
want to. Yes.
but still it's a
Yes.
you.
And that is
It's not
the
a them anymore.
transformation, right? To
I'm trying
go
to figure
from
out where
a relational
is a benevolent
paradigm of shame and
relational
blame
that
Yeah.
can
and
help.
somebody pointing their
Yes.
finger at you
The us.
to
It's
a
the I
relational
and the us.
paradigm
We
that
we
the
want to
trees
take
have
care of
of,
this.
Yeah.
We want to
we're
take care of this
interconnected
earth.
and we get to take responsibility.
Okay,
We
I'm just
get
going
to
say a
stand
couple
together
of more things
that way.
about
And that's a whole different
responsibility
relational
with a capital
paradigm
R.
of
And then
support and
we're
doing
going to
it
talk
not
about
because you're
collective
blamed,
responsibility.
but because
And our time
you
is going
care
fast.
and you
Well, one thing
want to.
about
But still, it's a
responsibility with a
you.
capital R
It's not a them
is that
anymore.
it's something
I'm
that
trying to
comes
figure out where is a
that comes
benevolent
within
relational
you.
that
Yeah.
can help.
Something that speaks
Yes,
to you.
the
Something
us.
you feel
It's
connected
the I
to.
and the us. We
If
want to take care
it's
of
not
this
something
Yeah.
body. We
that's
want to take care
assigned
of
to
this
you because
earth.
it has to be
Mhm.
done.
You have to do it because it has to be done. That's not the feeling.
Okay,
It
I'm
might
just
be
going to say
something
a
that has
couple
to be
of more
done that you
things
have to do and that you
about
might not even like to do.
responsibility
But
with
when
a
you
capital
turn that
R.
around
And
you
then
say,
we're
"Oh,
going to talk
this is
about
mine
collective
to do, and I
responsibility.
can
And our
do
time is
it.
going
I
fast.
can make this contribution."
Well, one thing about
That's a very different feeling. So
responsibility with a
it's
capital R
never
is that it's
when
something
we
that
unhook it
comes
from shame and blame, it
that
can't be
comes
something
within
that
you,
assign another person, or
something that speaks to
somebody
you,
else or somebody
something
else
you feel
inside you is
connected to.
assigning to you.
if it's not something that's assigned to you because it has to be done, you have to do it because it has to be done. That's not the feeling. It might be something that has to be done that you have to do and that you might not even like to do. But when you turn that around, people to say, "Oh, this is mine to do, and I can do it. I can make this contribution." That's a very different feeling. So it's never, but when we unhook it from shame and blame, it can't be something that you assign another person or that somebody else or somebody else inside you is assigning to you. I'm a therapist. It has to be something that sort of calls your name. Like, yeah, I can do something here. I think I might have mentioned the plane ride with the with the such an empowering feeling as opposed to why are you just sitting there? The plane sort of wobbling around, worrying about people being very scared, thinking about your own impending death, not speaking English. And I went and knelt by her and held her hand. So it's something that comes within us like a calling. I'm not sure, but that feeling to me of I was terrified too, but I knew that it was going to help me to go and comfort her. And the feeling like, oh, I'm a therapist. This is my job. Yeah, I can do something here. I know how to comfort people that are having panic attacks. Capital R. It's such an empowering feeling as opposed to why are you just sitting there when somebody is so upset, worrying about your own recognition, thinking about your own impending death. That would be a whole different already kind of touched on this. That responsibility. So it's something that comes within us like a calling, an act of belonging. And we have to free responsibility from this shoulds and blames and shames. Also of efficacy, the feeling of I can. I can do this. Even if it's something, when I was a little girl, I hated to do the dishes so badly. I couldn't stand doing the dishes. Yes. But then when capital I would say, R. Right. That we want to sort of get a hold of that it's a kind of recognition. There was a whole very different. I think we've already kind of touched on this. Larger that responsibility with a capital R that larger is an act of belonging. It's an act of when that comes within you, connection, and it's an act also of your efficacy, the feeling of I can. What I can do this, even if it's something. When I was a little girl, I hated to do the dishes so badly. I couldn't stand doing the dishes. But then when I would say, "Oh, it's an efficacy," and it's also an agency. It's going to be something that I really can contribute to the situation. No, we're not just burdened. There was a whole very different feeling about it, taking of a larger purpose. I think it's being connected to that larger. There's a feeling of forest of trees, like Susan when that comes within you, the exercising, and it's connected. I'm at one with myself. To also your abilities, your talents, your interests. It's never really what will come to you to be responsible for. It's like so. It's the responsibility in that sense is always a belonging. It's an efficacy, and it's also an agency. That I that's a we. It's like we can do that. We're not just helpless. We're not just burdened. The earmark of a leader, someone that take an active taking. Could be taking responsibility to say something, and which you do. There's a feeling of at oneness, something that needs to be like said, Susan was talking about with the unpopular thing, the exercising, a feeling that's of, a form of taking. I'm at one with myself. Taking responsibility. It's always something relational. It's never really, but it's an only I. Often a risk, Liz. It's like but not always. It can be just capital R. Responsibility is always the I that's also a we. My partner used because that I that's a we of owning. Is taking leadership of this world. That's the earmark of a leader.
The word that came up for me, Lynn, was ownership.
Responsibility. Could be taking responsibility to say something.
Yeah,
which
you
do
it or not.
Often, Liz.
But sometimes
something
I'm not
that needs
owning
to
it
be
and I'm
said,
still doing it,
even if it's an unpopular thing to say. Yes, that's a form of taking responsibility. And that's necessary. Taking responsibility that sometimes you're born into circumstances, but it's an active thing, much more responsible, often a challenge. But not always. More is called upon you to do. The quiet responsibility of sweeping the floor. And in our world, much more is called upon us to do. It's like an act of owning. And that I would like to keep as the small R.
That's the word that came up for me, Lynn, was ownership.
That we don't like, but we're forced into.
Because it gives me a sense of choice.
You're not
I can own it or not. But
yes.
sometimes I'm not owning it and I'm still doing it and I'm pissed off.
Of being forced into responsibility, but and that's necessary also, right? That sometimes you're born into circumstances where you're much more responsible. Out of time, much more is called upon you to do. To really think about, you're able to do, and in our world, much more is called upon us to do. capable
that?
of doing.
Can we have
And
collective
that I would like to keep
with a
as the
capital
small
R
R
and maybe a capital
responsibility.
C?
What that we don't like, but we're forced into in certain circumstances. You're not going to
Collective
leave
responsibility
your
is
well,
always
I won't
about
even go into
us.
examples of being forced into responsibility, but we all have them in our
We
minds.
need to care for the
Okay,
earth
I
and
want to
its people
change the
that
channel
belong to
here
us.
because we're running out of
And
time. And I want us to take a minute
each of us
to
has a
really
role.
think about collective responsibility.
Like Mary said,
What is that? Can we
part
have
to
collective
play in that
responsibility with a
collective
capital R
responsibility.
and maybe a capital C?
It's like feeling yourself as part of the trees.
Collective
that are
responsibility
interconnected.
is always about us,
It's always a we,
but there's an I in it.
we
We need to care
I'm
for the
implicated
earth and
in
its
this
people
responsibility.
that belong to us.
If my
And
child does something, knocks over something,
each of
breaks
us
the
has a
neighbor's
role.
whatever. My dog shits on the neighbor's
Like
lawn
Mary
or
said,
something like that.
a
I'm
part to play
responsible.
in that collective
There is an
responsibility.
I, but it wasn't I that actually did it.
It's like
but I'm
feeling
implicated.
yourself as
A
part of the
family,
trees that are
my family,
interconnected.
but we could extend that to the
It's
family.
always a
of
we,
humans.
but there's
We've
an
done
I
this
in it,
to the earth,
right?
we've done these
I'm implicated
horrible, cruel
in this responsibility.
If
on the
my
path, the revolutionary
child
path.
does something, knocks over something, and breaks the neighbor's whatever,
So I know,
my dog
do you feel about
shits
that?
on the neighbor's
What
lawn
can
or something
help
like
us
that,
to
I'm
make
responsible. A capital C, capital R.
There is an
collective
I, but it
responsibility.
wasn't
I that actually did it, but I'm implicated. A family, it's my family, but we could extend that to
right.
the family
I think
of humans.
this is an evolutionary,
We've done this
collective evolutionary
earth.
thing about
We've
thinking
done
of the
these
whole and
horrible,
not my little
cruel
self, who might
things
have a different preference, but
on
and
the
I think
path,
to
the
do it, we have to
revolutionary
include
path.
ourselves because it's not about taking care of everybody else and,
So
abusing
I know,
ourselves in some
how
way.
do
But
you
when we
feel
see
about
ourselves as part of the
that?
whole, then we're not,
what can help us
we're not
to
leaving ourselves out either.
Make
But I
a
think that's the
capital C,
direction
capital
our
R
spiritual
collective
evolution is going,
responsibility.
a group consciousness. And that when we hold on to our little self, we really are sort of doing damage to ourselves because we're,
Yes.
because that's not
Right.
where it's at anymore, I
I
think.
think,
That's what I'm thinking. This is an evolutionary,
Thank you.
collective evolutionary thing about thinking of the whole and not my little self, who might have a different preference, but and I think to do it, we have to include ourselves because it's not about taking care of everybody else and,
I can't help but think of
abusing ourselves in some way. But
how,
when we see
like,
ourselves
during
as
the
part of the whole, then
invasion
we're
of
not,
Afghanistan and Iraq,
we're not leaving ourselves out either.
friends of mine
But
would
I think that's the direction our
say, sorry,
spiritual
it's so
evolution is
early here,
going,
my voice is
a group
raw.
consciousness. And that
we
when we hold on
appreciate
to
you
our little
coming.
self, we really are sort of doing damage to
they would
ourselves because
say,
we're,
you know, sort of othering
because that's
the
not where it's at anymore, I
service
think. That's
members.
what I'm thinking. So
And then
Thank you.
I married into the Army and a career officer. And it made me realize, this is us. We elected the people that
I can't help
put
but
these
think
people
of
in office that made these choices. How, like,
we don't
during
get
the
to-
invasion of
like there's something
Afghanistan and Iraq,
it's like the
friends of mine
collective
would
almost doesn't come
say,
until
sorry,
the
it's so early
responsibility
here.
is
My voice is
accepted.
raw.
Sorry, that's my dog.
We appreciate you
Go with
coming.
that. Oh, good.
They would say,
There's just something I hear it
sort of othering
with
the
your other example
service
of
members.
when it comes to climate, the climate
And then
crisis.
I married into the Army
But it's almost
and
like
a career
how do we get
officer.
the responsibility
And
first so that then
it
the
made me
collective
realize, this is us. We elected the people
comes.
that
That was my
put
experience
these
with
people in office that made these
sort of
choices.
separating. Well,
We don't
those
get
are people
to,
who are willing to fight.
like,
the
there's
war.
something,
But the truth is,
it's like the collective,
it's
almost
it was an
doesn't come
American
until the responsibility is
policy.
accepted.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes,
that's my
yes,
dog moaning,
yes.
if you heard that.
We can hear
Oh,
But
good.
the responsibility comes
there's just
before or
something
maybe
I
at
hear
the
it
same time as the
with your
feeling
other
of
example of
belonging
when it
and
comes to climate,
ownership,
the climate
the
crisis.
feeling of
But it's almost like, how do we get the
the feeling
responsibility
it's
first so that
yours
then the
to
collective
worry about,
comes?
what to think about, what to respond to. That when
Or that was my
it
experience
feels
with
to me
the,
like
sort of separating.
unhooking
Well, those are people who are willing to
responsibility
fight the war.
from
But the
shame
truth
and
is,
blame and fingers
it was
pointed
an American
is so important for
policy.
personal responsibility,
Yes,
but even
yes,
more
yes,
important for collective
yes.
responsibility.
Yes. I mean,
that
we
the
can't
responsibility
stand
comes
to feel
before or
like
maybe at the same
people are
time
blaming
as the
us
feeling
for
of
something that our
belonging
country
and
did, you know,
ownership.
200
feeling
years
of,
ago, or something that that our country is doing now.
The feeling of it's yours to worry about or to
So
think
then
about or to
we shrink
respond to.
from that. It turns into the
It feels to me like
responsibility with a small
unhooking responsibility from shame
can
and
we
blame
feel
and
like we're
fingers
responsible
pointed
without being
is so important
blame?
for personal responsibility, but even more important for collective responsibility. I mean, we can't stand
that's the big
to feel
question.
like people are blaming us for something that our country did, you know, 200 years ago,
Hello.
or something that our country is doing now.
My name's Sam. This is the first or second time I've joined you guys.
So then we
happy to be
shrink
here.
from that.
I can't
It
stop
turns
thinking
into
right
the
now about
responsibility with a
a
small r.
smaller scale, big C, big
But
R
how
with,
can we feel
say,
like we're
coworkers
responsible without
or
being
collaborators.
to blame?
I'm in social services, and I have a collaboration of a mission trip that we have
That's
done
the
3
big
times. We're
question.
deciding about the next trip. I am taking, I believe, responsibility to refuse. My name's Sam. This is the first or second time I've joined you guys. Collaborate. I'm happy to be here. This project. I can't stop thinking right now about a smaller scale decision making, big C, big R, with say coworkers and or collaborators. I'm in social services, and I have the tasks are a collaboration of a mission trip. This person is to be collaborating that we have done 3 times. We're deciding about 30 years experience, etc. But I believe that my personal R, I believe responsibility can become to refuse that big C to have a person when I collaborate, speak out with this project is happening, as opposed to continuing to allow decision making, thinking that I should be able to understand. Yes, I do understand, but no, I will not do this one more time, because there could be so much more that could be done that's not being done. The tasks are great. That's the reason this person is to be collaborating, because of the 30 years experience, etc. Again, it's a smaller scale, but it's a big. I believe that, and it's a big risk for me to speak out. My personal R,
all of the scales, I think what we're
can
playing
become
with is that
that
all of
big
the
CR,
scales
right?
are microcosms of
When
bigger
I can
scales, and, you know,
speak out
and it starts with
for what is
the
happening,
collective
as
responsibility of
opposed
the
to
I, right? All the parts of me.
continuing
I'm
to
responsible
allow it and
for all the
thinking
parts of
that,
me, even
I
parts
should
that
be able to
that
understand.
I might
Yes, I do
disapprove of.
understand,
I can,
but no, I will not do this one
take
more time, because
responsibility
there could be so much
for-
more that could
but
be
that
done that's not being
speaking
done
out is a big thing.
or
It's a very,
achieved
very big thing. And it
while
happens
I
on
have
so
to
many levels.
while this is happening. So I'm thinking, again, it's a smaller scale, but it's a
we're
big C,
studying that speaking
and it's a
out
big
in
risk
our-
for me to speak
in our
out.
Right.
Forge
All of the
training
scales, I think what we're
woodwork.
playing with is that all of the scales are microcosms of bigger scales, and,
can
you know,
you
and it
find-
starts with
let's see if we
the
can
collective
find this,
responsibility of the I, right?
a
All the parts of me.
feeling
I'm responsible
what it
for all the
would be
parts of me, even parts that I might disapprove
to
of.
take
I can,
responsibility for the world.
take responsibility for, but that
To take
speaking out
responsibility
is a
for
big
what's
thing.
happening
It's a
in
very, very
Israel,
big
what's
thing.
happening in
And it happens on so
Ukraine,
many levels.
and to take
Um,
responsibility not only
we're
for the
studying
the
that speaking
terrible
out in
things,
our
but take
our
responsibility
Forge
for
training
the good
of
things.
group work.
All of the gardens that are being planted, all of the babies, the ones that are being cared for.
Can
so
you find?
lovingly.
Let's see if we
Um,
can find this.
responsibility
A
is to
feeling
be
of what
also
it would
this
be
appreciation
like
of something.
to take
Not just,
responsibility for the world.
We want this.
To take responsibility
can
for
be a
what's
kind of
happening in
caring.
Israel, what's happening
And when we
in
care about something,
Ukraine,
we're
and
taking
to take
responsibility
responsibility not
but we're not-
only for
we're not blaming
the terrible
ourselves
things,
about
but
it
take responsibility for the good things.
Can anybody
All
get
of the
hold of
gardens
that
that are
felt
being
sense?
planted, all of the babies,
comes very
the ones that are
rarely,
being
but
cared for
there's,
so
Buddhists are very good at
lovingly.
this kind of felt
Um,
sense of
Responsibility
the I
has
that's
to
we that's
be
big enough
also
and strong enough
this
to
appreciation
take responsibility
of something. Not just, but, we want this.
Those of you who are
responsibility can be a
therapists,
kind of caring.
may
And when
know
we care
something
about
about
something,
this
we're
from your work,
we're
because
taking
when
responsibility
we are
for it.
therapists,
But we're not
taking
we're not
on
blaming
the big
ourselves
therapy
about it.
process. we're taking
something.
on this job.
Can anybody get a hold of that felt
responsibility
sense of
It
being
comes
the
very rarely, but
interaction
there's
that's going to
there's
make
Buddhists are
growth
very good at
and
this
healing
kind of felt
possible.
sense.
And
of
as part of
the
that
I that's a
responsibility,
that's big enough
there's-
and strong
we
enough
have to be
to
willing
take responsibility.
what they call own the attribution, to feel the part of the transference that
Those of
that
you
doesn't seem
who are
rational to us.
therapists, I'm not your mother, I'm not doing this
may
to
know
you.
something about this
But
from
as
your
a
work, because
therapist,
when
I
we are
take the
therapists,
responsibility
we're taking
of,
on the
um,
big therapy process. We're taking on
the
this
transference
job,
of being a way
this
that the
responsibility
experiences
of
me, and
being
maybe there's
the
only
interaction
of me
that's
that
going to
can
make
really identify
growth
with that,
and
but I find
healing
that big.
possible.
And I'm
And
big
as
enough
part
to
of
take
that responsibility,
in
there's
I'm
we have to be
supported
willing
by
to
the
what they call own the
responsibility of
attribution,
being
to
the
feel
therapist.
the part
So
of
if
the
client
transference
blames me, I
that
don't have to take it in as
that doesn't
blame.
seem rational
I could
to
take
us.
it in
I'm not your mother.
as
I'm not doing this to you.
information,
But as a
responsibility,
therapist,
as,
I take the
something that we
responsibility
that can
of
carry us forward. So I
of
wonder if you could get a feel of that.
the transference
for
of being a way
taking
that the
responsibility for
client
the world.
experiences me, and maybe there's
Even
only
if there's
a
blame
bit of
in
me
it,
that can
people are
really
blaming
identify
you
with
for
that, but I find that big.
certain
And
things
I'm big enough to
of-
take
that you are
that
participating in
responsibility in,
collectively.
because I'm
That you
I'm
could take
supported
that blame
by
and turn it
the
into
responsibility of
responsiveness.
being the therapist.
Lynn, I'm
So
so
if the
curious.
client
I'm sorry,
blames
I'm so
me,
curious.
I don't have to
Okay,
take it in
what
as
is the
blame.
then what
I
is your
could take
next
it
step? What
in
is your moving
as
forward on this blame? Like you
information
said, you could carry it
as
forward. And
responsibility.
I'd love to
as,
hear an
uh,
example or
something
incident or
that we
what how
can
you did
that can
that.
carry us forward.
Well,
So
like
I wonder if you could get
like
a
for
feel of
example,
that for taking responsibility for the world.
I forget to say
Even if there's
they
blame
to
in
a
it,
trans person
people are blaming
whose
you
identity
for
is very
certain things
very much they,
that
and
you
the
are
person is
participating
furious
in
at me.
collectively.
And
That you could
says,
take that
they're
blame
like all the
and
other
turn it into
people that just disregard me
responsiveness.
and my identity.
Lynn, I'm so
something in me
curious.
will say,
I'm
"Oh,
sorry,
I
I'm so
didn't mean
curious.
it," and
Okay,
better to
what is
shut
the
up and
what
not,
then what is your next
try
step? What
or
is your moving
something.
forward on
And
this
then a
blame?
bigger part
Like
of
you
me
said,
can
you could
say,
carry it
"Oh,
forward.
yes,
And
that
I'd love
was
to hear
that was
an
a
example or incident or
terrible
what how you
insult
did
that I
that.
didn't even realize I was
Well,
doing.
like for
That
example,
way of
I
not
forget
always being
to
on your
say
being on your
they
own side
to
in
a
a
trans
deep way,
person
and being on
whose
the
identity is
side
very
of the
very much they,
of the
and the person
accusation
is furious at
in
me
another way, in the bigger
and
picture.
says,
Yes,
you're like all the
I
other
don't know if that's a
people
good
that
example.
just
And I
disregard
think
me
I
and my
brought us
identity.
into a territory
So
that might
something
be
in me will say, "Oh, I
very,
didn't mean it," and it's
very
better to shut up and
complicated
not,
here. Because
try
we're
or
saying
something.
my
And then
my
a bigger
thesis here
part
is
of me
that
can say, "Oh, yes,
responsibility
that was
with a
that
capital
was
R
a
is unhooked from
terrible
blame.
insult that I didn't
And
even
yes,
realize I was
we have to unhook
doing."
it from blame, but
That
somebody else might blame
way
us.
of
We could take, we could allow that.
not
if
always
we
being on
unhook it
your
from
being
blame.
on your own side in a deep way
It's super
and being
interesting what
on
you said. I
the
don't know if
side
this
of
connects at all, but I
the
was thinking about
of the
yes, and that
accusation
helps the other
in
person
another way, in the
in
bigger
your
picture.
role as
Yes.
therapist. But
I
is
don't know if
does it
that's a good
also
example. And I think
overly
I brought
shield
us
the
into
other
a territory
person
that might be
and from their own
very
need to take
very complicated
responsibility
here,
too?
because
And I
we're
was thinking
saying
about I'm on a
my
team for
thesis
something
here is
else,
that
and
responsibility
someone came to me
with a
for help, and
capital
I
R
helped
is
them, and then I started
unhooked from
thinking about, well,
blame.
how could the whole
And yes,
team
we
help
have to
them? And the
unhook
team
it from
leader
blame,
chided me,
but somebody else
said,
might
"You
blame
can't do that.
us.
You don't know enough
We
about the
could
whole team."
we could allow that
um,
if we
she
unhook
was
it from
basically
blame.
saying, and if you overly it's take super the side interesting of that what you said. I person, don't know if you this will shield connects them at all, from but I having was to take thinking about responsibility for yes, their and that helps the other collective person burden in your
to
in your
bring,
role as
the
therapist.
not burden, but
But
the
is
collective
does it
positive
also
contribution
overly
to bring
shield
this
the
team
other
forward, and then
person
they won't
and
take
from
on
their
what they
own
need to take on.
need to take
So that was from her
responsibility
point of view as
too?
leading the team.
And I was
thought that
thinking
was really
about I'm on a
interesting.
team
And I
for
was like,
something else,
I didn't think I was
and
doing that, but
someone came
but
to me for help, and I
just
helped them,
just
and then I started
her
thinking about, well, how could the
viewpoint
whole
of like, okay,
team
we have to
help
get
them? And the
everybody
team leader
up to
chided
speed.
me,
Everybody
said,
together.
"You
Yeah.
can't do that. You
it was
don't know
very,
enough
and
about the
her
whole
worry
team." And
that I was doing this thing
she
that
was
was overly
basically saying,
sheltering
and
the
if
other
you
person.
overly take
just
the
her
side of that
sensibility
person,
on it,
you will shield
I
them
thought
from
was,
having to take
of course I didn't
responsibility
like
for
being accused by her, and I had to
their
I didn't
collective
like that at all,
burden
and I didn't
to bring
go
reflect not burden, but reflective, positive contribution to bring this team forward, and then they will take on what they need to take on. But I still felt that was from her point of view as leading the team, and I thought that was really interesting. And I was wondering, like, maybe I was like, I didn't think I was doing that, but I just said was that just her talked about like viewpoint of like, okay, we have to get everybody up to speed.
Everybody
Have to
together, yes.
yeah, what's very her worry that I was doing this thing that was overly sheltering the other person. Just her sensibility on it, I thought was, of course I didn't like being accused by her, and I had to like, I didn't like that at all.
I'm
and
so glad that you're
doing that thing, and that went to that whole place, and I was like, okay, let me
through
just take a
and,
breath with this,
Yeah,
and then respond to her in a way that will calm her
the
down.
idea that
But
shielding
I still
people
felt
if
like
we
she
don't
had an interesting point of
assign them
view.
responsibility.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was wondering, like,
I
maybe
think
even
that,
not like, and one of
myself,
the person that
I
just said
think
was that Jennifer
that comes up for me
talked
a
about
lot,
like, well, when
particularly
you
in
accuse the
relationships with people,
country or whatever, you
like
still
my daughter, where
have
it's real
to
important for a
be
young
notice
adult
the
to be
institutions and the
empowered, to feel
people that are
empowered.
serving you and the
And I
positive thing
get
that
worried
they're doing, that there's
sometimes
something
that
that kind
about
of
the
growing
shielding too much,
that is
that I have
intriguing.
to
The whole thing is
be
very
more
intriguing.
directive in what
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
so
wanna
glad that
protect
you're
her.
intrigued and you're
And then
thinking,
the other hand,
thinking this
I'm
through
working on
and
leaving more space
and
to not have that
the idea that are we shielding
directive
people
self
if we
or that
don't
moral self,
assign them
overly moral self,
responsibility?
come into
Does it-
play.
I think
of that, and it's very hard myself. For me, I think leave that space. That comes up for me a lot, particularly in relationships with people. The something just like my daughter, where it's real important for a young adult to be empowered, to feel empowered, to and I direct. Get worried sometimes, which is really a challenge. About the shielding bigger conversation that I have
really,
to
yes.
be more
that's
directive
what
in what I
I
don't want to
love where you're
protect her.
going with that, Dorothy. That
And then
in
the other hand,
feeling of
I'm working
belonging,
on
the
leaving more
collective, that it's
space
a we,
to not have
then you
that
feel responsible
directive self
to,
or that moral
not
self,
shield
overly
the other
moral
person.
self, come into play.
So there's
And it's
something
very hard
very
sometimes for me to
interesting
leave
there
that space
about
because I feel
what
the
it
I,
means
the
to
ego, the
take
something just comes
responsibility
in
for
where
yourself, and does that encourage
a
other people
pressure
to take responsibility for
to
themselves, or
direct. And
are we
it's just really a challenge.
going to that fuzzy area where we're kind of
It's a much
feeling
bigger
like if we don't
conversation,
blame the person
but
in some way,
Really,
then we're
yeah. So
shielding them. I love where you're
But I
going
think-
with that,
I
Dorothy,
think
that
we
in
really
the
want some
feeling
breakout
of
rooms to
belonging, the
speak about
collective,
this.
that it's a
So
we,
let's have our
then you
breakout
feel
rooms and we'll come back
responsible
at
to not
at
shield the other
9:35.
So there's
and
something
check in with
very
each other.
interesting
And
there.
there's
About
a guest
what it
poet
means to
that
take
I'm
responsibility
going to
for
introduce you
yourself,
to at
and
the
does that
end.
encourage other people to take responsibility for themselves,
Here
or
they come.
are we
Hi, Jim.
going to that fuzzy area where we're kind of feeling like if we don't blame the person in some way, then we're shielding them? I'm
Hi,
not sure.
Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
But I think we really
Hi,
want some
Rachel.
breakout
Muted,
rooms
Rachel.
to speak about this. So
probably
let's have
muted.
our breakout
Muted
rooms,
me.
and we'll come
Very
back
Oh,
at
Alessandra.
at
And Yao is here.
9:35
Hi, Yao.
and check in with each other. And there's
As we gather, I
guest
just wanted to tell you a
poet
little
that
incident
I'm going to introduce you to at the end.
that I forgot to tell you that I love. My friend's
Here they come. Hi,
grandchild
Jim.
was
Hi.
terribly sick with one of those flus, and her son had to stay
Hi,
up with
Rachel.
Hi,
the
Rachel.
baby and work full
Hi,
time and then
Rachel.
stay up
Muted,
with the
Rachel.
baby and
Yeah.
should probably
Clean up all the
Good
mess and
muted
all of
him.
that.
Very close here.
And my friend said to her son,
Alessandra.
"Oh my God, that must have
And
been
Yao
terrible."
is here. Hi,
And he
Yao.
said, "Well, it's not the most pleasant part." I
As
love
we
the
gather,
gig,
I just
and
wanted
it
to tell
goes
you
with
a
the
little
gig.
incident. For whom English isn't a first language, a gig is
Mhm.
like what would you say a gig is?
The job, the position.
Like a job, a position. And he was saying, I love being a father, and this goes with it. So responsibility is a bit like that too, with the capital R. I love being a human, but I don't like some of the things that go with that job. So what happened in your breakout rooms?
Well, I'm feeling very, very grateful for my breakout room. It just felt very gentle and affirming and validating. And I don't know what the other two would say, but for me, just talking about how it's shifted. Sorry, I'm in traffic. I'm walking and I'm in traffic. The shift in how we feel about responsibility and our for ourselves as we get older, which I think is a topic in itself that I'd love to look at more. So I'm feeling very grateful for the breakout. Thanks.
Great.
Mhm. I had another thought about shielding people if you aren't pointing out their responsibility. And I was thinking, well, that might be something in the realm of the small r responsibility, but responsibility with a capital R is a state of mind, and it's an experience, it's a feeling. And you can't give that feeling to someone. It's like you want to empower them and you want to give them the feeling of responsibility, of ownership, of can do, but you can't give that to another person. It turns into blame on the way. It comes out of you with this good intention, and then it somehow degrades on the path. And when the other person hears it, they're hearing it as criticism. So that was my thoughts there.
Yeah.
What is coming up for me after my breakout room is I'm wondering how our human abilities to organization can be more developed in such a way that we can come up with fresh organizational structures that encourage, induce, enhance, and enrich collective responsibility in all the various domains of human endeavors, including education, and particularly in the area of wellness.
Yes. Wow. Well, your thoughts there are an instance of what we're talking about. You were taking responsibility there to think in this big way about institutions. And is there anything that that we can do? And it comes from you inside. Thank you. I think it's time for our surprise poem. And Dorothy's going to read it to us as a kind of summary, and then I'll tell you who wrote it, unless you guess. You might guess.
Okay. Responsibility, a second poetic vision. Responsibility begins as a whisper, a faint stirring in the chest, like a breeze touching a curtain, easy to miss, yet unmistakably there. It is the moment the world brushes against us, and something inside answers back, not out of duty, but recognition.
Dorothy, you're muted.
I wondered what.
Oh my God. First, I hope you heard, but you heard the first part?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is a homecoming, not a task, not a demand, but a returning to the center of ourselves. It is the slow courage of staying present, the willingness to inhabit our own voice, our own movement, our own integrity. To take responsibility is to take our rightful shape in the world, to stand where we stand without shrinking, without hardening, simply present and real. This kind of responsibility is freedom because it flows from the inside out. Collective responsibility. Collective responsibility is remembering that we live inside a shared breathing world, a weave of countless lives that hold us even as we hold them. It is knowing that we rise and fall together, that the well-being of the farthest stranger shapes our own. To take collective responsibility is to stand in the doorway of the world and say, I am here, I am part of this. Choosing responsibility. Responsibility is a choice, but often it feels more like a recognition, a quiet noticing of what pulls at our hearts. We step forward not out of guilt, but because something in us refuses to turn away. Responsibility is our way of loving the world, not in grand gestures, but in the steady, faithful acts that keep life woven together. In the end, responsibility is belonging, the thread we each hold in the vast human tapestry.
Thank you, Dorothy. How did you experience that poem?
It's a wonderful gift. part of the antidote to what I've been looking to add to my Undoing Racism workshops. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Just your reaction.
Some of the metaphoric language brought me back to how this meeting began today with your words, Lynn, about how talking about the trees put us all in the same felt sense.
Yes,
kind of brought me back there. Yeah. Very, I don't remember a word of any word that I heard, but I remember the feeling of
feeling.
The
feeling of the metaphorical landscape.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to stop, but I want to hear one more comment.
Hi, Lynn and everyone. I'll try.
Thank you, Pauline.
I loved hearing the surprise poem. You didn't say who wrote it?
No. I have a feeling I want to hold you in suspense until next week. Can I do that? Can any of you guess who wrote it?
Dorothy? No.
No.
Lynn?
No.
Oh.
I'm going
Lip?
to
Lip?
No.
I wish I had written it, but it's not me. So sorry to disappoint. I wish I would, because I really like it. Can you
really liked it? I'm going to put you in suspense until next week. Did anybody else have a guess?
Sashi.
Sashi, did you write it?
No mangoes for you, Sashi, then.
Did I write it?
What's that, Jim?
I'm asking if I wrote it.
No.
You wrote it. That's a good question.
How about ChatGPT?
Yes. You guessed it, Mary. Chat wrote it.
Wow.
Of course, I told him the ideas, so I think he would say he co-wrote it, but it was the ideas from my reflection, and he wrote us this poem. And there's so much to say about that. Chat is Christine's enemy, and here an enemy has written, not my enemy though, I like him, has written this beautiful poem. So we'll have a reflection sometime about how we feel about AI. But now, thank you for playing with me, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget, there's a planning meeting coming up.
Same link, Lynn.
Thank you.
Same link.
See you.
Yeah, well, we might as well just stay on. Christine, you could just turn the recording off.
Bye.